Welcome back everyone to Mimi's Kitchen. Today, Soup on Saturday's feature is going to be tomato soup. And I've come up with different ways to take a can of tomato soup and I call it doctor it up, make it all well, make it better. So I'm going to show you different ways you can just take a plain can of tomato soup and turn it into a nice meal for your family. I have not felt good all week. I've been a little under the weather, and I don't have any soup in the freezer, so I thought I'd go ahead and make up a big pot of soup and then freeze it in cups, paper cups, and then I take the paper off the cup and just dump all the little frozen tomato soups in a Ziploc bag. So if I need a soup, I just pull out a frozen cup of soup and heat it up, and I can take it to work for lunch, and by lunchtime it has thawed out enough to heat in the microwave. So that's just a little tip. If you've got a lot of extra leftover soup, just freeze it in small portions. So I found this can of Heinz tomato soup that feeds 12 people. It was $1.50, so I kind of stocked up. That's almost what this cost. So I stocked up in my pantry on this soup, and that would be good to fill your crock pot with that and one of these other ingredients. Just let it sit on low all day, and when you come home you'll have your dinner ready. But basically you can take a can of tomato soup and add to it. So here I have, for an example, Rotel diced tomato and green chilies. You could put that in the soup. This is the original, and for those of us that are mild people, this is the mild. And then you could serve it with some warm tortilla chips and some shredded Mexican cheese, and that's a really good way to use the tomato soup. Another can I found was basil, garlic, and oregano. So you mix these two together and you have more of a Italian tomato soup. So that would be good. This is my plain canned tomatoes that I put up this summer from my garden, and that's what I'm going to work on today, is mixing this with this and some half and half cream and making a really creamy bisque type soup. You can always add different spices. You could add a teaspoon of chili powder and make this a chili soup. You could add some Italian seasoning to this tomatoes, make it an Italian soup. Of course, you always need to add some garlic. And for those down south, we love our Old Bay. You could put a little bit of that in your tomato soup and make it a little spicy. I'm also going to show you how to take a loaf of bread. This came from the grocery store. It's a little hard, but that's fine. I'm going to make homemade croutons to sprinkle on top of the tomato soup, so I'll show you that. So let me finish up my coffee and then we'll get to making soup. Okay, this is a really easy process. So all you need to do is take your can of tomato soup, and you can certainly double this recipe or triple it, depending on how many servings you want, and just put it in a blender or food processor. I've got my Ninja here. Scrape in all that soup, and then you pour in your tomatoes. I'm using the canned tomatoes, but you could use the Rotel or the other flavored tomatoes. And then you just put this on. Oops. There we go. And pulse it. If you like the taste of tomato bits, you don't have to pulse it. I kind of want a creamy soup today, so that's why I've pulsed it. But if you don't, you don't have to worry about this step. Okay. So then I'm going to pour it in my pot. Let you get a look at that. See, it's still creamy. It's not watery. Just give it a nice stir. It's all blended together, and then just heat this on low. Now at this point I could add in one of my seasonings, Italian or garlic, Old Bay. I don't add salt and pepper because Campbell's tends to be very high in sodium. So we're just going to let this come to a small simmer. Then I'm going to add in 1 can of half and half cream. I don't bring it to a boil, I just get it good and hot. See how easy that was? You take a can of plain tomato soup and turn it into something really delicious. So I'm going to let this simmer, and I'm going to get started on the croutons. Okay, I'm taking a Italian loaf of bread, and I'm slicing it, and then I'm going to cube it. And I only used half the loaf. You can use any kind of bread. You can use French bread, Italian bread, sourdough, whatever you want to use. And then you take these and then just cube it in little pieces for croutons. Okay, now I'm taking the bread cubes, putting them in a dish, and I'm going to pour over some butter and some of the garlic and coat all the pieces very well. Grab a spoon. So I melted 1 stick of butter. I may not use all of it. I'm just pouring it over the bread pieces and just giving it a good stir. And then I'm going to sprinkle on some garlic powder. Okay, and then I'm putting these on a baking sheet. I'm going to bake it at 350 for about 15 minutes. I'll check it after 10. Just spread these out. It will smell so good. Okay, my oven's ready. I'm going to go stick these in the oven. Okay, while the croutons are baking, I'm just going to give you a little sneak peek of a upcoming video. I learned how to make tote bags about 30 years ago watching Carol Duvall on the Home Show. She taught you basically how to make a tote bag out of fabric, and ever since then I have just made tote bags over the years. So in an upcoming video I'm going to show you that basic step that she taught, and then how you can turn it into so many different tote bags. This is one I just finished for a Christmas present, and I had some that were unfinished upstairs in my craft room. So I pulled those out. I'm going to try to get them all finished up in the next couple of weeks for Christmas presents. These are little strap bags that you can just toss on. If you're in a hurry, you just want to carry your cell phone and your wallet. This is an iPad holder pouch. So this is just a sneak peek. Stay tuned for a video on how to make your own tote bags. Okay, the tomato soup has been simmering on low. It's finally come to a boil, and I give it a stir to keep the bottom from sticking. And then all I have left to do is just to add a can of half and half to make it like a tomato bisque. And you don't want to boil the half and half, so I'll cut it down to very low where it's not boiling anymore, but just staying hot. So I added in 1 can of half and half, or you could use whole milk. Just stir that in, and I'm going to cut the heat as low as I can get it. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Ooh. Almost ready to serve it up. I'm going to let it just sit and get warm all the way through without boiling. And then I'll pour it in the bowl and add our croutons. Okay, here are the croutons. Homemade croutons to put on the soup. Just a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese. I'll give it one more good stir. Pour some in the bowl. Put in some croutons. These are covered in garlic and butter. Put those right on top. And then a little bit of Parmesan. If you had some grated Parmesan, that would be better. And there is the soup. Looks delicious. So I hope you'll give this a try. The different ways you can make and flavor your tomato soup. It's easy soup if you're not feeling good or if you're stressed, busy at work, and don't know what to do for dinner. This is a great meal for the family. Make a big plate of grilled cheese sandwiches to go with it. You've got a very nice supper. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a comment, like, and subscribe. And I hope everyone has a very good and healthy week ahead. Thank you.